let's start with the TEDx Talks theme, the audacious dreamer. What precisely do we mean by audacious? Well, it denotes courage, the potential for bold and varied dreaming. I feel that this theme was just created for me since I've engaged in so many different dreams and activities. My life began with piano lessons, continued with national level skating, guitar classes, cricket, tennis, badminton, and is currently focused on mountaineering, blogging, and giving motivational speeches at events like TEDx. I also will be working for the welfare of tribal children and the underprivileged children through my NGO called Samunati. Where will it go next is unknown to me. Being audacious is essential since it allows us to experience various activities. I've so far participated in about 8 expeditions and ascended about 11 mountains, of which 5 were overseas and 7 were in India. The highest mountain in Africa is Mount Kilimanjaro, which I scaled on October 3rd, 2021. My first international expedition was Mount Everest Base Camp, which is at an altitude of 5,642 meters. The highest mountain in Africa, which is Mount Kilimanjaro at an elevation of 5,895 meters. And the highest mountain in Europe, Mount Elbrus, which is at an elevation of 5,642 meters. The tallest mountain in Australia, which is Mount Kosciuszko at an elevation of 2,228 meters. When it comes to the Indian summits, I scaled 3 out of 3 mountains in 5 days, which are namely Mount Mangankot, Bijli Mahadev, Lamadog in one climb, and completed it in 5 days at an elevation of 3,500. Mount UT Kangri winter attempt and Mount UT Kangri summer summit at 6,053 meters, Mount Kangyatse and Mount Dozongo at 6,250 and 6,150 meters respectively. I also hold the record for being the youngest to have ever climbed Mount Kangyatse and Mount Dozongo within 70 hours. And I'm also the youngest. And I'm also the youngest to have ever climbed Mount UT Kangri. And in addition, I'm also the youngest to have ever climbed Mount Elbrus, east and west, both within 24 hours. The effort to Mount UT Kangri in the winter stands out as one of my most unforgettable adventures. I vividly recall the minus 40-degree weather, the 40-kilometer-per-hour gusts, and freezing hands I experienced up there, along with frozen tears and burning ice. Yes, that was minus 40 degrees Celsius. I yet persisted in moving forward since I wanted to reach the top. Everyone essentially wishes to reach the top, but most of us forget that there's always a next time. However, a famous mountaineer once quoted, it's not just about reaching the summit alive, but also coming back down alive. So the Sherpas who were with me informed that we had to move to the summit camp immediately because the weather was going really bad. So I was escorted back to safety because I was the youngest member in the group. I had to prioritize my safety over remorse at that moment. So I had also understood that failures don't define us. They instead prepare us. So it had already been almost 6 months from my failed attempt to UT Kangri in the winter, which motivated me to make another attempt, but this time in the summer, in June 2022. It's not just 2 to 3 months of exercise and diet had changed things, but I pushed myself to exercise for 6 months, while also following a rigorous diet every single day with no cheat days. I also ran my first ever half marathon. I received first place in a 10-kilometer run and frequently practiced midnight walks with bag and weights for at least 5 to 8 hours every week. As they say, because life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. The most anticipated moment had finally arrived on June 17th, 2022. I had summited Mount UT Kangri after 6 months of a failed attempt. I was thus the youngest to have ever climbed UT Kangri. I was as happy as the Argentinian team lifting up the FIFA World Cup once again. But after 6 months, I indulged in my first ever chocolate to celebrate this occasion. It was difficult to reach the peak because we had to climb for almost 10 hours in the erratic weather. there was no sunlight. The oxygen levels were dropping, and there's always whiteout up there, and the only thing you could see was just clouds. But it took me 6 months of hard work, dedication, and sacrifice to fulfill this dream. So, and then within the next 1 month, I came back to Leh again to climb Mount Kangyatse and Mount Dozongo. These were additionally challenging mountains, but hey, I did have Maggie after 7 months, which was really good. But this was challenging climb because we had to climb for at least 7 to 9 hours every single day for 5 days straight. But after we got to the base camp, we got a bad news. We had to wait in the base camp for 4 entire days because the weather on the summit was really bad. It was snowing, raining, and just everything. So we had to wait in the base camp. But we didn't let our spirits down. I had watched almost 5 downloaded movies in 4 days. I also studied 2 chapters of biology and English up there. So. But the day had finally arrived. We had to push to the summit. We had started around 10 p.m. in the night, and we reached the summit at 12 noon, so which is almost 14 hours. So after spending about half an hour on the summit, we made a descent, which was 5 hours down. So the whole summit push took us 19 hours of just walking. That was it. After returning to the base camp, I jumped into my sleeping bag. And I wore 5 layers of clothes while everyone else was getting heated up in 1 layer, which had everyone thinking why I hadn't evaporated yet because of the heat. So after hiking, that day, after hiking for 3 to 4 hours, we went to the Dozongo base camp. And the following day, we had to make our summit push. So it took us about 17 hours to complete this summit effort, including the journey up and back down. But after the climb, we descended from the mountain ranges and arrived at the city of Leh. And that called for a celebration. After 7 months, I indulged in ras malai. It was just really good. It was delicious. So I then traveled to Europe within the following 10 days to climb Mount Elbrus, which is the highest mountain in Europe. Well, I finally had a burger after 7 months. But coming back, I experienced the strongest gusts of my life. It was blowing at a massive 60 to 65 kilometers per hour. And everyone was really annoyed by the weather, but it had practically made me laugh because I was literally flying away. And my coaches had to keep me stable. So it's also important to know that my flak just took off as soon as I unfurled it. However, it took us about 6 hours to reach the top. I summited Mount Elbrus on August 15th, 2022, which is our Independence Day. The following day, we also departed to Elbrus East, which is at an elevation of 5,421 meters. This time, the weather wasn't as horrible, and I was not flying, so I was safe. Thus, this journey had made me the youngest to have ever climbed Mount Elbrus East and West, both within 24 hours. We then returned to Mindla Vodi, and the following day, and I was back in Hyderabad within the next 4 days. Soon after that, I was felicitated by the Honorable Governor of Haryana, Bandaru Dattatreya sir, for this accomplishment. The highest mountain in Australia is Mount Kosciuszko, which is at an elevation of 2,228 meters. I summited that the following month, and that was when I felt like Virat Kohli after his match against Pakistan in the ICC T20 World Cup. But that one failed expedition gave rise to 4 successful expeditions and gave me lifelong learnings. That is why we must celebrate failures and let them teach us lifelong lessons. With this, I have reached 3 out of 7 summits. I aspire to be the youngest to have ever climbed all the 7 summits within the age of 16, including Mount Everest in the year of 2024 at the age of 16. And I also plan on pursuing neuroscience to become a neuroscientist in the future. Up to this point, this was my journey of discovering myself to different activities. And I have never stopped until I discovered what I really liked and what I'm really interested in. My journey until now was just adventure-filled, risk-taking, and definitely audacious. Thank you so much.